Hello everybody, I'm SJM. Welcome back to my Learning GregTech series. Today we'll be jumping into the LV stage, even though at this point I'm not completely finished with the quest line. I did get to mostly the end. We're not particularly close, but we're well over halfway through it there. We made our way to get to this MV machine, which is a basic circuit assembler, because this is going to make making these circuits not a lot cheaper, but a little bit cheaper and easier, requiring a little less resources. But wanted to get this one off here because it's been a few days already, and I'm stumbling my way through this slowly but surely. I do appreciate you all joining me on this journey, but let's just take a look at the mess that I've made of my lawn base here, where I've took my existing setup with the two steam boilers and the high pressure steam boiler with my steam machines, which these boilers were barely powering everything. Especially if I had this bad boy going. This thing doesn't take a lot of steam, but when this is running, these three have not trouble keeping up, but they can barely keep it full. It gains very slowly in the tank when the oven is running. Nevertheless, throwing on a couple of steam turbine generators and all of these LV machines on there. So, first and foremost, lesson learned is that we need our own dedicated steam source for steam turbine generators. And definitely 2 is not enough. 2 is okay if we're running, say, the bender, the wire mill, and the lathe all at the same time. Because these, for the processes that we're using them for at this stage, isn't super high usage of EU. But when we're running some of the more intensive machines, like these centrifuges or the chemical reactors, the extractor, and so forth, the 2 definitely do not keep up with it very much at all. So I've got one there down below, and then the other one down there. And then with 2 generators on a line, we do need to use 2x tin cable to connect them all together. So just note that is mentioned in the quest line here in the electricity generation, right? So if we're using a single, we only need 1x, but if we need to upgrade to 2 turbines, you should use 2x tin cables. Now, obviously, I'm suggesting we need a lot more than 2, more like 4, 6, or even 8 to get all of these machines running, right? Because I haven't gotten any of these ore processing machines up and going yet. I don't think I'll count the arc furnace just yet, but, plus this bad boy here, which is going to take up 4 LV generators just for itself to power it. So, you're going to need quite a lot of steam turbines. So I will be, obviously moving this over to... Let's keep things moving along because I'm kind of wasting steam as we can hear the machine venting on itself in the background. And we can start that back up again proactively. Guess I really didn't need that for while I'm talking in the episode, because I won't be running a lot of these machines, but it's good to keep things going at the same time, right? Especially when we're trying to process our way through all these rubber logs to get more of that sticky resin these other byproducts aren't too bad either. Like the wood pulp comes in handy for making these planks, so on and so forth. So the first thing that the first thing that I came across when we made our first LV machine, the wire cutter here, was that, I mentioned in the other one that we wanted to be careful with our power usage on these ore prospectors and the power in our portable cell, but any machine that you make in the LV stage, you can put something in this slot there and it will actually charge. That's not charging now because we're power starved. The 2 steam turbine generators, I bet they started full of steam. It only took less than 15 seconds for it to run out of juice. So definitely behind on the infrastructure in that regard. But with any of these machines, we can now put charge into those items that we got in the first chapter, or in the second chapter, first and second chapter, I guess, so that we don't have to worry about that super, getting to the end of the MV or LV chapter before we can charge things. No, you can charge things straight away. The next hiccup that I came across was the hooking up the machines to these wires. There's my machine that I wanted to hook up. So if we put the cables down, they don't necessarily connect to each other right away. So if you're paying attention, then you just make sure that you're aiming at the wire, and there we can get a connection going. But then, whereas with the steam machines, I had to figure out for myself that I needed the wrench to be able to unhook or hook them up if you don't place them properly, or if you need to turn them on or off. I guess that's the other thing we can mention is with these machines, you can turn them on or off with this button, as you saw me do a second ago with this centrifuge, right? So it's super easy. We don't need to unhook and rehook machines up anymore. With the LVs, you just have to use the button, so that's kind of nice. But I put down some wires connected to my steam turbine because I aimed right at the block. It connected quickly and I didn't realize. My first machine I put down, oh, that's a block away, so that's obviously not going to connect. But I aimed it like that and I put it down and it doesn't connect. Broke it, picked it up, aimed it at the wire this time, and there it connected. But then I tried to put down my next machine, which was, I think, in this position. So I put down the machine, and then I popped up there to put the wire down in behind it. And when I put the wire down in behind it, it didn't connect automatically. So I had to go searching around, and I know because I watch, other people play GregTech that they're connecting their wire somehow, but obviously being a newbie, I wasn't paying attention. But we do need these wire cutters from your various crafting recipes. So just there and right clicking there, you can unconnect and connect wires. The one main difference is with the steam ones where we can set the direction of flow, shift and right clicking doesn't do anything other than just connect or disconnect, because there's no direction of flow for the electricity. I guess we're all on AC here. There's no DC, I guess. Not really sure on that, but that is the second lesson. Well, that was technically the first lesson, and then the second lesson was learning about the charger slot on each of those machines in there. So there was a just clean up some of my inventory here. There was a section of the quest line here that definitely threw me for a little bit of a loop. Had me guessing for over an hour, and even made me rage quit for a day to be able to come back to it with more of an open mind or a calmer mind. But this section here where we're comboing, after we get our solidifier, it tells us that we can make these tin rotors in a solidifier because it's easier to craft, right? 4 ingots per rotor instead of 4 ingots plus a couple of bits and bobs, and even these ingots need a little bit more processing, right, to get to the plates. But it tells us that we need the liquid tin to cast into the mold, which all makes sense. But liquid tin, how do we get that? Well, we just need to use an extractor. And I didn't know at the time what I was looking at, but JEI is telling me that a low pressure or a high pressure steam extractor would work. And it kind of didn't make sense to me at the time, because I'm like, how does a steam machine melt metal, right? This stuff is 505 kelvins, or that's 300 degrees Celsius-ish? Well, less than that, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's a much higher temperature than steam, so how does a steam machine actually do that? And I'm not fully used to GregTech and knowing what this symbol down here, like, so this means minimum LV, whereas I guess the steam machines are considered ULV, and it doesn't really say that anywhere. Oh, here. Right, it doesn't really say that they're ULV in there, but it makes sense after you know. But I guess the thing I clued into after putting the game down for a day or so was that I looked at the steam extractor, and then I made the high pressure steam extractor, and then I come to notice that the liquid buffer has a total capacity of 0 millibuckets. And that's where it all clicked for me and made sense at the end. Yeah, okay. Steam not melting metals, that makes sense, but there's no place for a liquid to go, so how could this machine actually produce a liquid, because there's no capacity for it? Even though there's the slot there, that's what fooled me, I guess, in a way, on the first day, but just come to realize there. So we did have to make the LV extractor, which does have a capacity for liquids. So we can now get 8 buckets into one of these guys, right? And then just put that down, and we can I put my tin in there, melted down some there to get some ingots in there for a demonstration. But the thing that I don't like about the quest book is it does have the LV extractor after that quest. So this quest, it seems like it's asking you to melt the tin and get this, but the quest after has the actual machine that we need. So maybe these two should be switched around. But I see the connection in the grand scheme of things, because you really want this LV extractor to make the liquids for the circuit assembler, because these things, they tie directly together, and we'll demonstrate that here in a minute or two. But that's the go there. So like I said, my goal when I first started going through and looking at the quest line was I wanted to get to this assembler, and I noted, or I thought this was the guy that I wanted to get to, because I wanted to make the recipe for these circuits a little bit easier. It's not a whole lot easier, but it's easier, right? Instead of 3 alloy cables, the ones that need the rubber on them, if we have this assembler, and I was totally ignoring the circuit part when I was first doing it, like when I was first making my plan for it, I'm like, oh, if I get this assembler, I can avoid the rubber on the red alloy, I also avoid a steel plate, not that that's huge or anything, but it is also one less alloy wire per recipe, but it does cost us some liquid, right? Either soldering, alloy, or tin. Tin's really easy, and soldering alloy, it's not too horrible, the recipe for it, but you know, for this stage right now, it's just as easy just to grab the tin to get a bulk of these, and we also double the output, right? So usually this would take 6 pieces of alloy wire, it would take 2 boards, it would take 4 resistors, it would take 4 vacuum tubes to get 2 basic electronic circuits. So it is actually quite a bit cheaper, all in all, at the end of the day, to get this circuit assembler. So I aimed for that, ended up with this assembler, because I aimed for the wrong thing and then noticed after all of that, oh, I've got the wrong machine. I need to go for a circuit assembler. And then I guess the hiccup that comes with getting the circuit assembler is that this guy needs MV tier circuits. So the rest of these things aren't too bad. They're all very doable with, you know, the first few LV machines that we get. The LV emitter was a little bit of a curveball, but nothing too horrible. We just had to make some brass and find ourselves some quartz in the nether to get this quartzite. But that's still pretty easy, all things considered. But the tricky part was, oh, I guess we missed it there. We need these MV tier circuits, which aren't too horrible. They take up 3 regular circuits. They take a phenolic printed circuit board, which isn't too bad at the end of all things, right? At the end of the day, not too bad. And but these diodes became the real curveball for us, because they required this gallium arsenide dust. So the quest line does tell us about the gallium arsenide, and that this is going to be one of the main themes that we do have in GregTech, is that materials moving forward don't get smelted directly from ores. The only way to get these are as byproducts from processing other ores. And both gallium and arsenic, which are needed to make this stuff, gallium dust and arsenic dust, are byproducts from other processes. So going through JEI, we've got it all figured out. If we want, might as well just look here because I got it. If we wanted to get gallium dust, basically we just go to a thermal centrifuge and put in crushed zinc, so sphalerite ore, which we had already gotten zinc earlier to get the what are they called? LV emitters, right? We needed zinc to make brass. That's what I was going for there. So we already had the sphalerite on hand. And to get it crushed, we just put it through the big macerator, so that was easy. And then we needed to put it through this basic thermal centrifuge. So I ended up processing 56 total sphalerite there. We ended up getting 16, 17, and I think I've used 3 already. So about 19 gallium dust from that, all in all, and that is it was a 33% chance, I guess, and it does go over all of this in the quest book, at least for this stuff here. So for gallium, there was 3 options that are doable at this point, but this first one is a very low chance, so I ruled that one out. This one required a chemical bath and sodium persulfate, so that was 2 other rabbit holes to get into, whereas this thermal centrifuge was relatively easy. You just needed 1 additional machine to get there, and so that's the one that I chose to go for that. Now we come to the real curveball in the whole situation, which was the arsenic. So if we look at the recipe for the arsenic dust, we have to throw some railgar dust into a centrifuge. Well, what the heck is this railgar stuff? And is it a byproduct of something else? So I started down the rabbit hole here, but looking through all of these things, I figured out that it's actually an ore, and we can find it. Looks like we can find it in the overworld and the nether, because there's a nether version as well. So I kind of went searching around the nether, thinking maybe because I didn't remember seeing it in the overworld so much. Because I had already done a bunch of running around and scanning, and it didn't, pop out in my head at all. Sorry about that. Needed a drink. And then I kind of thought, oh wait, there's the ore generation tab down here for things. So I looked at this and I'm like, gamer rage. I'd never even caught on to that one before. So looking at source of salt, chlorine, lithium, fluorine. So I scanned through all of these just from here, and I didn't see Realgar anywhere on there. So kind of, didn't pay any more attention to this because it's got to be out there somewhere, I figured. So I started looking through the nether, even though it didn't say it on any of these ones either, as far as nether ores. And, eventually came across it, in the list here. But I did totally ignore in here that if we look in the chalcopyrite, if we actually go into it, we can see that it is in this vein here as a part of the chalcopyrite stuff. So you'll get tin, this zeolite stuff, as well as the copper chalcopyrite. So that I didn't notice at the time, but I was, basically just running around with a chicken, like a chicken with its head cut off, looking on my scanner. Where is this stuff? Where is this stuff? Finally, we found it. And we're back. Like I said, so finally we found it in the list. Oh, here we go, finally. Hooray. And oh no. It was a real bittersweet moment for me because we realized how much of a headache this stuff was going to be. So 2 whole railgar in this entire chunk. None in there. 3 in this chunk. 4 up there. And obviously at the time I didn't know that we needed to find the chalcopyrite vein to be able to get to it. So I'm like, how am I going to find this stuff? So long story short, I ended up coming over to the chunk where I had, I think, 11 pieces of it in it. Went down here, went all the way down to the bottom. Basically went all the way down to the bottom of the world, then started trying to get a little bit smarter with it, and I went straight onto here, and I tried to locate myself in the proper part of the chunk, and I started digging upwards. And if we take a look down here quickly, we can see that does go all the way. I think I started all the way down at bedrock. If not, it was real close. And just started coming up and up and up, and finally we started seeing it in here. And it's quite tricky to find, like, because there's so few of it around. But eventually you'll find it mixed in among all of this tin, copper, what's this stuff called? Zeolite and railgar. So that was a rabbit hole unto itself, literally, digging around all over the place. But at the end of the day, we did finally get our arsenic and our gallium, put her together in which one? The chemical reactor. No, not the chemical reactor. Mixer. I've taken my mixer down. That's why it's not up there anymore. put it together in the mixer, got the gallium arsenide, then you just break the arsenide down. This is really another one that I have. These is not a shapeless recipe because we've got two different recipes, right? Putting a gallium there gets you 9 there, but putting it there gets you 4 of the small piles instead of the tiny piles. So we can't do anything with it in our 2x2. You do have to look in a regular one to be able to get either of those products there. So that was easy to figure out. So nothing too interesting there. Let's turn this guy back on because we're venting. Oh, you're finished processing already. Excellent. Let's go get some more. I'm almost finished processing all of my rubber at this point now, which is really nice. Built up a whole bunch of methane, which I don't know what we'll be doing with yet, but I am just keeping it around because there's no reason to void any of it at this point. The final thing I guess I wanted to talk about was moving liquids around. So basically the chemical reactor we can use to make a more efficient form for rubber rather than using the steam extractor and the alloy smelter, because we'd use the steam extractor to get the rubber dust, rubber pulp, and we mix that with the sulfur and the alloy smelter, and then we take that product, which is rubber, and combine it with a casting mold back into the alloy smelter again. So we can't really run this in parallel because we have one, unless we make another alloy smelter, I guess. But, you know, if we take 1 sulfur and 9 rubber pulp in the chemical mixer reactor, we get the liquid rubber, which we can then use in the assembler to start coating our wires, which was a lot more efficient to do it that way, rather than, because we have other uses for this rubber sheet, right? We could, rather than just making all of these wires, there are things like these conveyor modules and there's other things to make with the rubber sheets. So just kind of lessened our reliance on that, on the, you know, using our different machines to do different things, you know, at the same time, despite my lack of infrastructure in place. But on that note here, I do have my first area, or we'll do our first little build. I'll do an LV section in this chunk here. So I'm just planning things out, doing a little building, using the framed blocks mod. And if you are going to be using the framed blocks for making different ones, definitely make the framing saw. Just makes making all the doodads and the neat blocks like these ones just a lot easier in the end, and you can convert them back and forth, right? And then the other thing I really liked about the frame blocks mod is that you can apply glowstone to them and you get a light source out of them. So I think this one here has glowstone in it. There's no way to see it, I guess, but if I break it, I don't get it back either. So just to note that, but you just apply glowstone to it and then it will be a light source without having a torch graveyard everywhere. So, but I'll be using some of the machines or some of the things we get from the end of this chapter in there as well. So I'll be putting together this large bronze boiler as a central source for the steam, and we'll store it all up in the steel multi-block tank so that we've got a quantity of steam available and we don't have to run this large bronze boiler just for a small amount of steam when we need to do, you know, smaller bits and bobs of crafts. And then throughout the infrastructure and have this, you know, our sets of generators in smaller things, like maybe 2 in a section or 4 in a section, so we don't have to make, you know, 16x wire all over the place to handle all of the generators that we're going to have, and then just use battery buffers between each individual section so that we don't have to, so that, and you know, a section of 2 or 4 turbines doesn't have to run, you know, this greedy machine all by itself, right? They can help each other in a parallel lit system. So that will be good. I guess the other last thing that we need to talk about in the LVH was the drill. So I thought when I was making this that I was going to get away from the whole repairing of our mining hammers, because I was, you know, in the pack it's a little bit difficult to get XP because, well, at least I'm playing on peaceful mode, so we don't have any source of hostile mobs. I guess on that sidebar on that note is when you do go to the Nether and you go to a bastion, you will find the piglins and the brutes in those structures. So just be prepared, take a golden piece of armor with you so that you don't get attacked by everything in there, because they are quite brutal. But at the end, the bastions were pretty good. You saw I got you know, mending diamond legs, mending diamond helmet, as well as an extra pair of leggings. Managed to find 2 smithing templates, a couple of netherite ingots. So nothing super spectacular for this pack in particular, but it was worth going in there for, I think I got like 12 or 15 blocks of gold from the bastion as well. So just as long as you know how to hide from the piglins well enough when you're breaking their gold, that you don't get slaughtered by them while you're over there. But if you do, you can always make another set of gold armor and do a slash back to get back to your death point pretty easily. Sidebar over, we're talking about the drill here. So I thought by going to the drill we'd negate the necessity for repairing in the anvil, because levels were hard to come by. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So in here it does say repair with iron ingot, iron plate, but that does have to be done in the anvil, unfortunately. So it does take levels to repair that way. Although I guess we could make a drill head. So if we just make another one of these drill heads, so 4 steel plates, 4 iron plates, we can replace that pretty simply on there. I don't have all of that, so can we make a steel drill? And yes, okay, so that would completely repair without needing levels, is we would just have to make a new drill head, which is, I guess, at the end of the day, even more expensive than making a hammer, because this took 8 steel plates, whereas a hammer only takes 6 at a time. So I guess that is what it is. But the other thing is you do get more durability use out of it as long as you have power in it. So obviously we know we can recharge in any of these machines. Just put it in there and the charge will go up again. And as long as it has charge, it will only take 1 durability for every use you use of the drill. And I believe I've fully tested it, but let's just go back down and reconfirm my thinking. So this has got 239 durability. So if I break all 9 of these blocks, it went down 2 durability instead of 9. but I'm quite sure that even after you run out of power in it, it still will work, but it takes the full durability hit. I can't obviously test that here and now for y'all, but I do believe that's the way it worked when I was out there, because it was, I wasn't losing much on the green bar at all when I was looking for the railgar. But as soon as I ran out of power and just started using it regularly, I was like kind of surprised, like, oh, hey, it works without power. But then, 2 minutes later, as I'm digging out 9 blocks at a time, running around, I noticed that the durability, the green bar, went down really, really fast after we ran out of power. So something to note there. You can also, instead of doing an AoE mine, if you use crouch, you can mine things one at a time with it as well. So it does have a couple of uses there. It works great on stone and dirt, but not for trees at all, unfortunately. So I still will need to probably make a new axe every time I want to chop down one of these trees, because when we use this guy, it's super slow on it, and it also obviously doesn't break down in an AoE at all either. So unfortunately, we still will need, not vanilla tools, but regular GregTech tools for moving forward. I think that's everything I wanted to cover in this episode here. We'll come back next time. Here, actually, let me put it on a pause and think for a second before I turn off the recording and remember what I forgot. I guess the only other thing that I didn't touch on in the video was the universal cell. So when we are making liquids in like your chemical reactor or your basic extractor or something, if you've got less than a bucket in there, you can use the universal cell to pick stuff up out of it. And then if you've got like just a tiny amount left over that you're not worried about or you don't think you'll need in the forward or in the future moving forward, then you can just craft the universal cell with itself, and it will empty out anything that you had in it and void it for you, because there's no other way to void the liquids other than in the machines, or by breaking the machine and replacing it. And I guess we may as well do this on camera and give this the good old college try, as they say. Got some red alloy wire. Oh, I don't have those. And this is where the Dewey scale comes into play here. I do play with it on the 2. Because I can't see my pinned recipes with this crafting station set up, because this takes up too much room. May as well make one. This guy that we need, right? And what am I forgetting? Resistors. Not diodes, resistors. Oh, I was already down to 4 resistors too at the same time. So I wanted to see, because there's in the quest book it tells us about, sorry for the small size here, but the conveyor modules and the covers. I think it's the conveyor modules. Yes, so conveyor modules will transport items if you place it on the block. But I wanted to see if the machines have an innate ability. Because if we look here, we've got these here. So I wanted to So this should be auto exporting liquids, right? Fluids? Yes, so the 576 ended up over here. So what am I missing, I guess, for the circuit assembler to work? Resin printed circuit board, that's what I'm missing, right? Yes, I need the printed circuit board. That's the phenolic. I've got lots of copper wire, so that's not hard. We only have enough to make one anyway, so this is the guy we need. That's why it wasn't working. Hooray! Yes, so that does work there, so you don't need those actual covers to do auto exports. So I don't know why they mention that in the quest book, to be honest, because I kind of thought about that when I was watching other videos where he was setting the sides to his machines for auto exporting and stuff. So I don't know why it says that we need to do that with these things. I think they're just a crafting ingredient, to be honest with you. But maybe we'll see at some point later on where things won't go automatically and we'll have to use them. And maybe these work like create conveyors, right? Maybe they can also do things like that, as put them on a machine and transfer them a few blocks over instead of side by each. Maybe that's what that means. But I guess that's enough rambling for another SJM video. Again, I appreciate you all for checking it out with me. It's been fun, a little bit of frustration, but nothing, nothing that we're gonna get too upset about at the end of the day, when basically I am just learning it all myself, and I'm not just going on and watching somebody else's Let's Play that explains everything for me, because I think there's quite a lot of value in learning things all by yourself, and it's great to have this pack to at least give us the meat and potatoes of it all, if not the whole meal and deal, right? But yeah, at any rate, that's it for this episode. I appreciate you all, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.